from beautiful East Tennessee in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. You are listening to the Sherry Voluntary Show, and I do appreciate you spending your time with me. You might be surprised, but we're back after a little 5-week hiatus. I'm back, and so...
Your 30-day hold expired.
30-day hold?
Yeah, at the hospital. Oh, wait, we're calling it a trip to Dallas. Right.
Right. Yeah. That lovely voice that you're hearing is my producer extraordinaire, Daniel Blanchett. Hello, Daniel.
How you doing?
Welcome.
Thanks.
So, you know, as many of you know, and I've been contacted by many people asking if I'm going to do the show anymore. Thanks a lot. Way to go.
Yep, sorry.
It's okay. That I haven't been on the air in the past 5 weeks. So, you know, just a little burnout, experiencing a little bit of stress in my personal life and in my work life. So, you know, sometimes you have to step back a little bit. So I'm back in the game. I'm going to get going again, and we'll be bringing you consistent content once again.
Yep, back out of Arkham.
Arkham?
The mental hospital from Batman.
Oh.
Or specifically Joker.
I forget you do this. You say things.
I'm just here to wreck the show. That's all I'm here for.
Right. So, yeah. So we're ready to get back into the swing of things. And, you know, I sometimes, I guess everybody needs a break.
Yep.
Maybe people needed a break from me.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, you did this show between the radio show and then your podcast. You did it for 2 years pretty consistently.
Yeah, that's true. First on a daily basis, which when I started going, you know, to weekly, it seemed like such a huge relief. But once that gets, you know, you start to do everything yourself, and
I did appreciate when you were doing everything yourself, though.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nothing to produce? Yeah.
My job got way easier.
Yeah, but, you know, it's just hard. And I know many of you know this when you're trying to balance life and work and other responsibilities, and monkey wrenches get thrown into it, that it becomes really difficult sometimes to stay sane, or what passes for sanity for me.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. So anyways, I recently, and I was really looking forward to this too. I knew that I had a trip coming up. I went to Dallas, Fort Worth area to hang out with my good friends down there, Patrick Smith and his beautiful family. They hosted me, and it was really wonderful. I tell you what, they were just really refreshing to me, and it was really nice to be around them, and their little ones are just adorable. So that was really good for my heart. And while I was there, I went to the Candles in the Dark seminar that Amanda Rockowitz and Larkin Rose put on. And that was really wonderful, you guys. I have to tell you, that was really great.
And if you want to go, you can't anymore because that was the last one.
Yeah, as far as I know, I think that's going to be the last one. But it's recorded, so Patrick and those guys down there, they recorded it, and they're going to have it edited and put out soon. I think maybe Kaysen is in charge of that, Kaysen Bryden. And so it's going to be on video for everyone to partake in. And it was really great. I tell you, I did this trip, and I knew it was coming up, and I was hoping that it would refresh me and get me back in the swing of things, and excited about talking to people again. You know, you guys know what it's like when you're trying to talk, not just in your regular everyday life, but online as well. And you get a lot of, shall we say, not so nice things said about you sometimes, or to you. And even though, you know, you have to have a thick skin to really push the norm and try and, you know, have a paradigm shift, it's never easy for those people who are in the beginning stages of that. And you know, I think it's a lot easier for us now than it was for people even 20 years ago. So, but when you're doing that, you know, you can generate a lot of negativity without even trying. But what's great about the Candles in the Dark was that the whole seminar is basically teaching you to get out of your own way. And so it's kind of the art of not throwing up obstacles or walls in front of yourself.
Or throwing up.
I don't think they addressed actually throwing up. I think you're on your own with that one. Excuse me. I picked up a little cold while I was in Dallas. So, hey guys, I was Celeste is here. And she says, show us your Stevie Nicks shrine. I need to do that. I need to do like a post showing you that, or just put it back here on this wall, Celeste. But so the Candles in the Dark seminar, I did find it really refreshing. And one of the things that they really, press in that is that it's not about the statist that you're talking to, and don't call them statists when you're talking to them. But it's not about how they behave and they react. It's about you and how you behave and you react. And so I think we all know just, naturally that when someone's telling us, oh, we're anarchists, for goodness sake, like we know we don't like to be told what to do. And so that can just throw up a wall right there. So if you come at people with this kind of, and I don't think we intentionally do that, but I think sometimes it's just so clear to us now that when we talk to people who aren't, say, woke, I want to say that, the people that aren't in the know about voluntarism and stateless society, that we can sort of come off as arrogant because we're sort of already at a place we want them to get at. And so I think that's a big part of it, is us controlling our own psychology. And I don't want to give away the whole seminar to you guys, but I do want to give you a taste of what it is, because I found it really, really helpful. And a lot of it's not stuff that you don't know. It's just using that stuff in a different way and reminding yourself that it's about you. It's about how you handle people, how you talk to people, and that you need to go into a conversation with people with the correct mindset. And something that I've often said, and I know you've heard me say this before, Dan, is that we want to have conversations with people not to be right, even though maybe what we're telling them is right, but we want to have conversations that lead to the next conversation. So we want to build credibility with people, and knowing that they can talk to us, and that they can talk to us about political things that normally people get, yell at each other about and they feel uncomfortable talking about. But that they can do that, and that we'll listen, and that we'll be respectful. We want to do those things with the people in our lives. Maybe not Dan. Dan is the, what are you? You're like the pro at the one line devastating comment.
I'm just the world's only libertarian.
Right.
I'm the
Ladies
one.
and gentlemen,
Yeah.
The world's only libertarian, Daniel Blanchett. So we don't want to walk in there with that mindset, even if, especially, I know that's what often triggers me, is when someone's calling themselves a libertarian, and then we start to talk, and I realize they are not, like, they don't understand that there's a philosophy that goes along with this, and that being a libertarian is more than being fiscally conservative and socially liberal. Like, those are effects of libertarian philosophy, not the philosophy itself.
Just bake the cake.
Thank you, Gary. We'll bake the cake. Yeah, so I think that's what's really important. And I know, we have to ask ourselves the question, do we want to be right, or do we want to be effective?
Oh, I want to be right.
I'm sure. Are you in the mic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, probably not, but.
Okay. I know that there are days I've had when I don't really care about being effective. I'm just pissed off at the world, and, maybe someone has taken the brunt of my pissiness. But we really want to remember that a lot of times this is the first time people are hearing about something like we've talked about, and it's scary to them. Like, I mean, I've often said too that taxation is theft. As easy as that comes off, rolls off the tongue for us, and as simple as that seems to many of us, a lot of people have never heard that, and it's a really radical thing to say. And their whole worldview is based on taxes and being good citizens by paying taxes, so that you can do good in the world by believing in government.
Government is responsible for every good thing that's ever happened.
Right.
They break your leg and then they create the hospital for you to go and get it fixed. All those military hospitals, where they learn how to do these great things like replacing severed legs,
or dumping bodies of soldiers into landfills. Yeah. So when you're dealing with people online, sometimes you deal with them in a completely different way. But we definitely want to make that ourselves people that, aren't so bristly that no one wants to talk to. I mean, I know some people who are these edgy anarchists, and they walk around and they wear that on their sleeve like they're better than everybody, honestly. And
well, I am.
You are, Dan. But we really, it comes down to just that. Do we want to be right, or do we want to be effective? And sometimes being effective is not what we want to do. That was one of the things about the seminar that I'll get to in a few minutes, is that it was difficult in some ways for me, and I will get to that. So what we also want to recognize is that we're trying to release people from a system of control, not trying to control them. And trying to get them to come to our point of view in one conversation is a way of trying to control them. And that was really hard for me too, because, I want to pounce sometimes. And it reminded me of something, and I'm sure that you know about this, Dan, because you're a Buddhist and everything, and that my yoga teacher says to me that we need to stop being concerned with outcomes so much. That in our lives, we have to not be outcome oriented, but just focus on what we're doing and be in the moment. And all that sounds like kind of woo woo, when you can be really woo woo with it. But really it's true. I'm not responsible for that person's outcome or for what they end up thinking. I am responsible for what I say to them, and my agenda when I talk to people, other than just to get to know them and treat them, kindly and enjoy their company, is also to help them get rid of the contradictions that I had to get rid of as well. So I think that's a big part of what we claim to want to do, and that we really should work on doing. Kelly Northup says, spot on timing for this topic for me today. Kelly, you're awesome, and I'm glad you're out there. She works really, really hard in talking about forced vaccinations and things like that. So I'm really glad to be, doing this with you. So one of the things that they also talk about, I don't know, did you want to say anything about outcome orientation or?
No, you can keep going.
Okay. So they also talk about some of the common traps that we tend to get in when we're talking to people. And, really we have to remember that we're trying to free their moral code from the state that's been holding them back from their real moral code with all the indoctrination. And so that's why I think a lot of times, we'll talk to people and I say this about the right, all the time, is that, yeah, they talk the words of freedom, they have the rhetoric down, but they don't believe it. And while that's true, I see that it's not because they don't want to. They just don't know. I was the same way. I didn't know any better. I talked about individual rights, but I didn't really believe in them because I'd never been able to take that next step, because the government in my whole life, as well as, millions of other people, had been telling me, you need me. You wouldn't have an education without me. You wouldn't have eaten at times without me. There's so many ways that the state has interjected itself into our lives that we start to, as people, we start to rely on that. And I know I'm using the word we a lot because I am talking about us as a collective group of people who have come out of a way of thinking. And so, sue me, pocket mouse, whatever.
Yeah. One of the things is that, like, if you just keep talking about it often enough, just plant the seeds. My office mate is he's basically a democratic socialist. But one of the things that he's come around on is just every once in a while I would talk about one of the police stories that come up in my feed just constantly. And over the course of 2 years, he said he can't go anywhere without finding him either. So he kept, people eventually see. And once you see, you can't stop seeing. And so if you get people to learn that they're not free, eventually it'll sink in and they'll start spreading the word too. And eventually people will start deciding to act like they are free. And really that's how you become free, is just to get everybody to act like they are.
Right.
Eventually the government can't do anything.
Right. They start to recognize that, hey, if we just don't do it,
Yep.
like, what are they going to do? They can't shoot us all, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Patrick is
they
great
can
for
try.
that.
Yes.
Those guys down in Dallas are just doing a fantastic job of just doing it. You know, they don't care what the government says. They do what's right, and they do it on their own terms. And that's
beautiful.
That's what I aspire to.
Yeah,
So,
me too. I hope to grow a group like Patrick and the Dallas Fort Worth voluntarists have down there, because they've got so many great activists. Murdoch Pisgatti, and I mean, there's a bunch of people. Kelby Casebolt and
Slicey Boy.
Slicey Boy. What's that? Oh, the
guillotine.
Right. So they've got a lot of great people down there, but it starts with people being willing to do things that get them attention, and maybe not the best attention. So, you got to figure it out in your own area, how to do activism that people will actually do. But yeah, they're such an inspiration to me, and I think it's really important. I mean, like, that's one of the things, is that we have to be freedom in your face in a way, but when they come and talk to us, we have to be ready to hear their anger and to hear their dismay and to answer them with compassion, recognizing that we want to bring out of them the voluntarist that's already in there, because most people already believe, we're all taught when we grow up, not to hit other people and to, not take other people's property, things like that. So these are foundational principles of just most society, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to get them past the idea that government is sharing, because they've been taught that sharing is caring, and how can you share if the government doesn't take it from you first?
Right. And that sharing can be forced upon you. Like, that's one of the things I didn't like when I had kids. I started realizing, like, I don't want to force my kids to share, because if I do, that's like me being forced to give to charity. Like, it's not really giving, and it's not really coming from a place that benefits that person by sharing if they're forced to do it. So, like, with my kids, I would tell them, like, you have a friend coming over, if there's any toys, like, that you don't want to share, that's fine. We'll put them up in a way so that they're not an issue. And that really helped them, and they felt like they controlled their own property. Imagine that. And I think that made them more giving. And my kids are really giving. My little daughter and my son, when he was younger, would both come to me and say, like, Mom, I need to clean my room. I have these things to give to other kids now because I don't need it anymore. Or, it just gave them that mindset where they were able to let go. And I think that's, as a parent, what we teach kids, is that if I'm forcing them to do it, it makes them hold on tighter. And I think it kind of applies when we're talking to other people as well, that if we're trying to force them to believe in freedom, damn it, that makes them hang on to their statism tighter. And so, look, I'm not saying that I am a master of this by any means, because y'all know me. Y'all know me. Y'all heard me on the radio. Y'all heard me I've not always been the most snuggly person.
You're passionate.
I am passionate. And then sometimes my passion can come across as anger. Are we still on here?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes my passion can come across as anger, and I get that, and I'm working on it. But and there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of righteous indignation from time to time, because I still believe that shameful attitudes, like you should shoot everyone at every illegal, harsh quotes, immigrant at the border. I think that's shameful and it should be shamed. It's worthy of public shaming. I mean, even people who are not libertarians, who are not anarchists, should be able to understand that that's a shameful opinion to have. So if you don't, we can talk later. Y'all need to know better. That's terrible. But just being more receptive to letting people have a little room to breathe, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Have a little time. Because none of us came to, very few people that I've ever heard just heard about voluntarism and just went, oh yeah, I believe everything. And it got all laid out for them all at once. It takes time to unwind.
Yeah, if you're gonna try something like that, it's usually got to involve just tremendously large doses of psychedelics at the same time.
Yeah, that too. Or the person's already ready. Like I know when I became an anarchist, I was basically ready. I was at that crux where I had to decide, oh wow, do I really believe this or not? Like, do I really believe that people shouldn't be forced to do things they don't want to do or not? And all the dominoes just fell at that point. But I was ready. I'd been working my way up to it and doing a lot of reading and listening and things of that nature. So I think we have to remember that people, it takes time, and we want to be kind to people when we can. Why not? Like I don't know. I always try to act with kindness, because I tell my kids, you can't go wrong with being kind. Like if you don't know what to say to someone, you can't go wrong by being kind. Although I think there are some people out there that there's nothing you can do to make them, treat you nicely. But
so sometimes the kindest thing to do is to leave.
Yes, that's true.
And it's kind to them and it's kind to you. So,
right.
because you've got to be kind to yourself too.
Yes. And one of the things that Larkin and Amanda expressed throughout the seminar is that we are going to make these people uncomfortable, but just by asking them questions, just by being questioning in a certain way, so that they come to their own contradictions. Like it's bringing people to their own contradictions and letting them figure it out. And then once you've done that and you've been kind and you've been effective at that, they may come back to you to ask you more. And that's when you can really start to teach them. But they have to, this is about breaking down the walls that people have. Because when they know, a lot of times when we come to people and we talk to them about politics, it's automatically us and them. Like we're not on each other's side. So we're going to have conflict. And it throws up walls. Like we want to just get around that and just kind of be stealthy, and sneak under.
So you can talk to them as a fiscal conservative or as a social liberal and, leverage your way in that way and point out that, the people that are espousing the ideas that they think they agree with maybe aren't actually acting on them.
Right. And that, do they really agree with the things that they're talking about? Like they'll say in one instance, I believe in individual rights. I believe in natural rights. And then in the next, they'll talk about, I think a national program, service program that's mandatory for all kids would be a great idea, because they're not looking at it that from the way that you are. They're not seeing force as the main problem in
you could get rid of corruption by conscripting people into government.
Right. Right. Yeah, that would do it. So I guess remembering that we're going to make them uncomfortable, and we may be uncomfortable, but that we're on their side and we're there to help bring out the voluntarist that's in them, because really most people do actually believe that people shouldn't be forced. Like if you take it out of a completely political context and you just talk to people and say, nobody should be forced to live a certain way. Everybody should be able to live the way they want. Most people go, yeah, that's true. I believe that. And then it's when you get into the the details of politics or religion that people think they have the right to tell you what to do. But if you can bring people back to that, that's really important. And remember that we're on their side. We want more voluntarists in the world, right? Like, that's what we want, right?
I mean, yeah, or at least, people who aren't going to tell me what to do.
Yes.
I mean, and when I say me, I mean anybody. Like, they don't have to believe everything we believe as long as they don't believe that they have the right to force me to do what they want.
Right. And that's the basis of voluntarism, is that all.
I mean, but things like communal societies and other things, as long as everybody is there on their own and they don't making you attend.
Or even, I've told people before, Social Security. Look, if you believe it's a great program and you really think it's wonderful, then you go all for it. But why should I be forced to be a part of that? Like, and nobody can really answer that. Nobody's given me a good answer to that. It's because I shouldn't. Nobody should. And, it always comes down to, well, when you're old and you need it, that's, you better not come asking for it and blah, 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 blah. And like, believe me, I won't. I can save better than the government can save for me.
But it is still okay to ask for help, even if there's no government. Even if you're opposed to government, you can ask for help and people can choose to help or not.
Right. That's
And the great thing about this country has always been that when people ask for help, they get it. They stopped helping when they started having government programs to do it.
Right.
I'm not going to feed the homeless. We can give them food stamps.
Right.
I'm not going to support this, retirement community through my church because they've got Social Security. Except that the government never gives you enough. And when the government is the one giving it out, they can choose who to withhold it from. Mm-hmm. Like right now, the government is giving us our freedom. And so if you're somebody they don't like for whatever reason, they can take your freedom away. As long as government's doing the giving, it gives them more power so that you might feel like you're free, but it's at the expense of somebody else.
Right. That's very well said. And so, the idea that I own myself completely is really important. And I always say the completely part is really important, because you can say I own myself, but to own yourself completely means that you have the right to make every decision over what happens to your body and what you do and what happens to you. So I really think that that's an important point, and that to remember that whatever the government does for you, they can do to you.
Yep.
So that whatever, thing you want instituted, whatever thing you want done in society, and you're willing to use the force of government for it, that it can also be done to you. And that's the problem that a lot of people, when I talk to them, they never have considered that, they just think we just got the right person in office. Sorry, I've got this cold and I have a cough, a drop in my mouth. But that if we just get the right person in office, they'll change everything. They really aren't taking any personal responsibility for it. They're the vote. Oh, I voted. Done. But that if it's not about getting the right person in, because everything Obama did that you didn't like was legal. Sort of.
I mean,
for the most part, they make it legal if it's not, or effectively it doesn't matter because the laws don't apply to them.
In practice, it's legal.
Right. And so everything Trump does that you don't like is also legal or made legal. So there's a problem there, and the problem is not having the right person with the right little letter by their name in office. The problem is the office itself, the whole system itself. So that's what we're trying to bring to people, is this understanding of authority and the idea that someone else, by any reason you want to give, God or whatever rights that people try to use to give them authority over other people's lives, we're trying to bring people out of that. And that takes work. So we really want to make sure that they remember, and that we remember, because mostly it's about us, that we remember that we're on their side. And one of the things I want to say about this seminar, it's not really long, and it's not, Larkin and Amanda aren't authoritarian or anything, of course, as you know. And they really work with you to get over your own dissatisfaction. And that was one of the things when they did examples. We paid, or they paid people $50 to come in and talk for 15 minutes with someone just to be ask questions. And as they're doing it, I felt so dissatisfied. Like there were certain points where they would get someone to come to a point where they didn't quite understand what they wanted to say, that cognitive dissonance, and then they wouldn't pounce. Whereas that's what I would do normally, is I would pounce on them. Then, see, here's where it is. This is where anarchy will help you. But they didn't do that. And it's really dissatisfying, but that's what you're looking for. You're looking for them to find their own contradictions, find their own place, the intersection, if you will, where their statism and their desire to be free meet. And they'll start to come to their own answer. I mean, everybody, when they think it's their own idea, is more receptive to something. So that's really what we're trying to do. And I just think it's wonderful. I hope you all will check it out. Pardon me. I spoke with Larkin, and I think he's going to come back on the show once the video is ready, and we'll talk more about it. And I just really think that you guys would all benefit from it. I know it takes practice. It takes work. It's not an easy thing to just let people be. Saying that as an anarchist, it's not easy to not give them the answers sometimes, but to let them discover it, let them find where there's a place that they need more information, and then maybe possibly you be the person to give them that information and to build that credibility with people. So that's really, that's it. And I did want to say, I really appreciate all the Dallas voluntarists. They were wonderful. I had such a great time hanging out, and we had deep conversations and we had silly conversations, and it was just a really refreshing time for me, and I really needed it. So I want to give a big shout out to them. Oh, and I promised my daughter that I would show her painting to everyone. She did a fall painting, and I promised her that I would show everyone. So there you go. I don't know if she's going my snow cabbage anymore, or...
It's the pumpkins before they've been drained of their spice.
So that's really it. That's all I got for you today, guys. Build community. I guess that's the thing about the Dallas voluntarists is, I mean, they have a meetup a week. They do each side of town, so that everybody can be a part of it. And everybody has their own like little side projects there that other people in the community are supporting and kind of holding up. You know, they're helping each other in their activism. So I think that's a really great thing. I hope to build the same kind of community here in East Tennessee, so that we can grow the voluntarist community here. That I'd really love to see, because I want to be around. I mean, I loved it. I loved hanging out with those people, and I would love to hang out with more people in my daily life.
If you're living in the Knoxville area, check out, just do a Facebook search for Knoxville Voluntarists.
Yes.
If you're in the Dallas area, just check Disenthrall or
Dallas
Kelby or Patrick Smith, or you probably know the people. And if you don't, just, check out Patrick Smith, Disenthrall podcast. Larkin Rose.
Yeah, there's a Dallas Fort Worth Voluntarists, I think, is the Facebook page. But they do have a Facebook page
and a meetup group and all that.
Yeah, and that's where they do their meetup announcements and everything. So yeah, get plugged in with those communities. I was just talking. I met 2 people online today that live here in Knoxville and want to come to our meetups. I never heard of before. So go look for that. I am going to start doing that on a monthly basis again, and all right, that's all we have to say. All right,
thanks folks.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week. Peace.